I thought love could fix anything. I gave everything to my wife, Sophia, my time, my money, my heart. But when she turned our marriage into a one-sided deal, I woke up. This is the story of how I took back my life, not with anger, but with quiet strength, and found something she could never take away. Diego Alvarez leaned against the bar at a crowded company mixer in downtown Miami, the hum of chatter and clinking glasses filling the air. It was 2019, and at 28, he was a rising software engineer at a tech startup, known for his knack for untangling complex code and his quiet, steady demeanor. The event, a rare chance to mingle with colleagues from other departments, felt like a break from his usual late nights debugging in his cubicle. He scanned the room, not expecting much beyond small talk and a quick exit, when a burst of laughter caught his attention. Across the patio, Sofia Morales, a 27-year-old HR assistant, held court with a small group, her animated gestures drawing smiles. Diego didn't know her, but her energy was magnetic, like a spark that made the humid Miami evening feel lighter. She caught his eye mid-story, flashed a grin, and waved him over. "You're the guy who fixed the payroll glitch, right?" she asked, her voice teasing but warm. Diego, usually reserved, found himself chuckling. "Guilty," he said, and just like that, they were talking. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, coding mishaps, her knack for defusing office drama, and their shared love for Cuban coffee from the cafe on Flagler Street. Sophia had a quick wit, tossing playful jabs that kept Diego on his toes. By the end of the night, they'd exchanged numbers, and Diego walked to his car feeling something he hadn't in years: possibility. Over the next few weeks, texts turned into coffee runs, then dinners at hole-in-the-wall spots in Little Havana. Sophia's stories about her big Puerto Rican family and her dream of teaching yoga full-time painted a picture of someone vibrant, ambitious, and grounded. Diego, who'd grown up in a quiet Miami suburb with his single mom, admired her fire. He opened up about his own goals, building apps that could help small businesses, maybe even starting his own company one day. 6 months later, they were inseparable. Diego loved how Sophia made every moment bigger. Weekend hikes in the Everglades, impromptu dance lessons at a salsa club, or just binge-watching sci-fi shows on his beat-up couch. She pushed him out of his comfort zone, and he grounded her with his steady presence. On their one-year anniversary, under the twinkling lights of a Coconut Grove bistro, Diego proposed. Sophia said yes before he finished, tears in her eyes, and the other diners clapped as she kissed him. It felt like the start of something unbreakable. By 2021, they were married, trading their small apartments for a cozy condo in Coconut Grove. Diego took on extra freelance coding gigs to cover the mortgage, wanting Sophia to have the freedom to pursue her passions. She'd scaled back her HR job to part-time, focusing on yoga training and building a small following on Instagram, where she posted about mindfulness and fitness. Diego didn't mind the long hours. He saw it as his role, the provider who made sure the fridge was stocked, the bills were paid, and Sophia could chase her dreams. "We're a team," he'd say, kissing her forehead as she scrolled through her phone, planning her next yoga retreat. Their evenings were simple but full, cooking arroz con pollo together, laughing over Sophia's terrible knife skills, or dreaming aloud about their future. Diego imagined kids someday, maybe a dog, while Sophia talked about opening her own yoga studio. He believed in her, even when she doubted herself, and she'd squeeze his hand, grateful for his support. On weekends, they'd explore Miami's vibrant corners, Wynwood's art walls, Key Biscayne's beaches, or food trucks at Dade County Fair. Diego felt like he'd cracked the code to happiness: love hard, work hard, and everything else would fall into place. But even in those early days, there were hints of imbalance. Sophia's yoga classes stretched into late-night drinks with her new gym friends, leaving Diego to eat dinner alone. She'd come home buzzing about her day, but when he shared his, debugging a tricky app or landing a freelance client, she'd nod absently, her eyes on her phone. "That's awesome, babe," she'd say, but the words felt hollow. Diego brushed it off, chalking it up to her needing space to grow. He doubled down, taking on more projects to fund her yoga certification, believing that love meant giving without keeping score. One night, after a long day of coding, Diego came home to find Sophia packing for a weekend retreat. "It's a networking thing," she said, tossing clothes into a bag. "Could be big for my brand." He nodded, hiding his disappointment. "Need a ride to the airport?" he offered. She shook her head, already texting someone. "Mateo's picking me up. He's going too." Diego didn't know Mateo, her gym trainer, but the name stung. He pushed the feeling down, telling himself it was nothing. Love meant trust, after all. As Sophia's car pulled away, Diego stood in their quiet condo, the hum of the AC the only sound. He opened his laptop, diving back into work, but a small, nagging thought lingered. When had he stopped being part of her plans? He shook it off, pouring himself into another coding project, convinced that their love was strong enough to weather any distance. But that night, as he ate leftovers alone, the first crack in their foundation formed, too small to see, but deep enough to grow. Diego Alvarez woke to the buzz of his phone at 5:30 a.m. Another client email demanding a rush job. By 2022, he was juggling his software engineering role with freelance coding projects, often working past midnight to keep the bills paid for the Coconut Grove condo he shared with his wife, Sophia. She'd scaled back her HR job entirely, now teaching yoga part-time and chasing a growing Instagram presence. Diego didn't mind the grind. He saw it as building their future, even if Sophia's focus seemed elsewhere. Mornings once filled with shared coffee and playful banter had faded. Sophia now slept in, her phone propped on the nightstand, notifications pinging from group chats with her gym crew. Diego brewed his coffee alone, leaving a mug for her out of habit, though she rarely touched it. By the time she emerged, he was already deep in code, headphones on to block out the silence of their home. She'd breeze past, tossing a quick morning before heading to her yoga studio or a brunch with friends. Diego noticed she mentioned Mateo, her gym trainer, more often. His name slipped into stories about workouts or group outings, always with a casual laugh. One Saturday, Diego planned a rare day off, hoping to reconnect. He suggested a hike in Oleta River State Park, a spot they'd loved early in their relationship. Sophia hesitated, checking her phone. "I've got a thing with the yoga crew later," she said. "But maybe we can do dinner?" Diego nodded, masking his disappointment. That evening, she texted at 7 p.m. "Running late? Let's skip dinner. Meet you at home." He ate alone at their favorite taco spot, the empty chair across from him louder than the mariachi music. The distance grew sharper. Sophia started pulling away from his touch, a hand on her shoulder, a hug after a long day, recoiling with a sigh or a curt, "Not now." When he asked if something was wrong, she'd snap, "I just need space, Diego. Stop crowding me." Her words stung, but he swallowed them, telling himself she was stressed, that love meant patience. Yet, her social media told a different story. Vibrant posts of rooftop bars, beach sunsets, and gym selfies with Mateo's arms slung casually around her. Diego's notifications, meanwhile, were bank alerts, mortgage payments, utility bills, and Sophia's latest Venmo requests for girls' night or self-care. One evening, Diego came home to find Sophia on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a half-eaten smoothie bowl beside her. He'd spent the day debugging a client's app, his eyes burning from screen time. "Rough day?" he asked, hoping for a real conversation. She barely glanced up. "Mateo's launching a fitness app," she said. "I'm helping with the branding. It's a big deal." Diego nodded, though the mention of Mateo twisted something in his gut. "That's cool," he said. "Maybe I could help with the coding?" She shrugged. "He's got it covered." The dismissal landed like a quiet blow. Weeks later, the tension boiled over. Diego had worked through the night to meet a freelance deadline, his bank account drained to cover Sophia's yoga retreat deposit. He suggested a low-key movie night, craving a moment to feel like partners again. Sophia rolled her eyes. "I'm not your entertainment, Diego. I have my own life." Her tone was sharp, final. "My space, my rules." He stood frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. This wasn't about needing space. It was about shutting him out. The next morning, Diego sat at his desk, staring at their joint bank account. Another Venmo request from Sophia popped up, $150 for drinks with the crew. He clicked through her Instagram, seeing her laughing in a club, Mateo's name tagged in the story. The math didn't add up, his sacrifices, her indifference, the way she lit up for everyone but him. He didn't confront her. Instead, he opened his laptop and searched for financial advisors in Miami. A seed of clarity took root. Love shouldn't feel like a one-way transaction. Diego started small, redirecting his freelance payments to a new, separate account. He left enough in their joint account for shared bills, mortgage, utilities, but nothing extra. When Sophia asked for $200 for a spa day, he paused, then said, "Check the joint account." Her frown was instant. "There's barely anything in there," she said, exasperated. "I've got priorities," Diego replied, his voice even. She stormed off, muttering about his attitude, but he felt a shift inside, a flicker of control, a step toward reclaiming his worth. Diego Alvarez sat alone in their Coconut Grove condo, the glow of his laptop casting shadows across the quiet living room. It was late 2022, and the weight of his marriage to Sofia had become a silent burden. His days were consumed by coding, long hours at his tech startup job and freelance gigs to keep their finances afloat, while Sofia drifted further into her own world of yoga retreats and social media clout. The disconnect between them wasn't just emotional. It was a chasm, carved by her indifference and his unspoken resentment. One Friday evening, Diego returned home after a grueling week, his shoulders heavy from debugging a client's app under a tight deadline. He'd hoped for a quiet night with Sofia, maybe takeout and a chance to talk, to bridge the growing gap. Instead, he found her in the kitchen, phone in hand, texting rapidly. She glanced up, barely acknowledging him. "I'm heading out soon," she said, her voice clipped. "Girls' night at a new spot in South Beach." Diego's stomach tightened. "Any chance we could hang out instead?" he asked, keeping his tone light. She sighed, eyes still on her phone. "Diego, I need this. Don't make it a thing." He nodded, swallowing the sting, and watched her grab her purse. As she reached the door, she paused. "Oh, can you Venmo me $200? It's for drinks and dinner." The request hit like a spark to dry tinder. Diego's mind raced. Mortgage payments, car insurance, her yoga gear, all on his dime, while she offered him nothing but distance. "What's the joint account looking like?" he asked, his voice steady but pointed. Sofia frowned, impatient. "It's low. You know that. Just send it, okay?" He stared at her, the woman he'd vowed to build a life with, now treating him like an ATM. "I'm tapped out," he said, the lie calm and deliberate. Her eyes narrowed. "You're being weird," she snapped, then left, the door clicking shut behind her. That night, alone with his thoughts, Diego's perspective shifted. Sofia wasn't just pulling away. She was rewriting their marriage as a one-sided contract. He opened their banking app, scanning the transactions, her spa visits, brunches, Ubers to clubs, all charged to their shared account, while he worked himself to exhaustion. The realization hit hard. He was funding a life that excluded him. He didn't yell or pace. Instead, he acted. Logging into his bank's website, he opened a private checking account in his name only. With a few clicks, he rerouted his direct deposits, his salary, his freelance payments, leaving the joint account with just enough for essentials. No more blank checks for Sofia's whims. The next morning, Diego woke with a clarity he hadn't felt in months. He called a financial advisor, scheduling a consultation to protect his assets. Then he adjusted their shared credit card, lowering Sofia's limit to $100 and setting up purchase alerts. It wasn't about control, it was about survival. He wasn't punishing her, he was refusing to be her doormat. When Sofia texted later, asking for $150 for a networking event, he replied, "Use the card." Her response was a curt fine, but Diego felt no guilt, only resolve. Over the next week, Sofia didn't notice the changes at first, too caught up in her routine of yoga classes and late-night outings. But Diego was done waiting for her to see him. He stopped offering to drive her to the studio, stopped cooking dinners she'd ignore, stopped asking about her day when she never asked about his. Instead, he signed up for a cycling group in Coral Gables, the early morning rides giving him a rush of freedom. He reconnected with an old college friend, Javier, meeting for beers at a Wynwood brewery, laughing over stories untainted by Sofia's dismissal. For the first time in years, Diego felt like he was living for himself. Then came the tipping point. Sofia came home one evening, her phone buzzing with notifications. "Mateo's app is launching soon," she said, unprompted, as Diego worked on his laptop. "I'm helping with the promo." "Mateo again." Diego's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice even. "Sounds big. You spending a lot of time on it?" She shrugged, nonchalant. "It's a good opportunity. He gets me." The words landed like a blade. Diego closed his laptop, looking her in the eye. "And I don't." Sofia froze, caught off guard. "That's not what I meant," she stammered, but her defensiveness betrayed her. "You're always so serious, Diego. I need fun, not pressure." He didn't argue. Instead, he stood, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she called, her voice edged with irritation. "Out," he said simply, leaving her in the silence of their condo. As he drove toward Miami Beach, the ocean air clearing his head, Diego realized he wasn't just stepping away from a fight. He was stepping toward a life where he wasn't invisible. Sofia's rules had built a wall, and he was done trying to climb it. Diego Alvarez pedaled hard through the sunlit trails of Key Biscayne, the rhythm of his cycling group's tires humming against the pavement. It was early 2023, and for the first time in years, he felt unburdened. His marriage to Sophia had become a shadow of what it once was, her emotional absence and constant demands leaving him hollow. But now, with his finances secured in a private account and his focus shifting to his own life, Diego was reclaiming his sense of self, one deliberate step at a time. Sophia, meanwhile, continued her routine, oblivious to the changes unfolding. Her days revolved around yoga classes, social media posts, and nights out with her gym crew, particularly Mateo, whose name peppered her conversations. Diego no longer asked about her plans or offered to fund them. When she requested $250 for a wellness workshop, he replied, "Check the joint account." The account, now lean, held only enough for shared bills. Sophia's text grew sharp. "Why is it so low?" But Diego stayed calm, responding, "I'm prioritizing other things." Her frustration was palpable, but he didn't waver. He redirected his energy elsewhere. At work, Diego pitched a new app idea to his startup CEO, earning a lead role on the project. The challenge energized him, late nights coding now fueled by ambition rather than obligation. He joined a photography class in Wynwood, capturing Miami's vibrant street art, his lens finding beauty in details he'd long ignored. After years of pouring himself into Sophia's world, he was rediscovering his own. He started grabbing coffee with coworkers, their easy banter a stark contrast to the silence at home. One evening, a colleague invited him to a tech meetup in Brickell. Diego went, staying late to debate AI trends, feeling a spark of connection to a community that valued his voice. Sophia began to notice the shift. One morning, as Diego packed his gym bag for a cycling session, she lingered in the kitchen, watching him. "You're different lately," she said, her tone probing. "Always out, always busy." Diego zipped his bag, meeting her gaze. "I'm respecting your space, like you wanted." Her lips tightened, but she said nothing, retreating to her phone. Later that week, she tried a new tactic, cooking his favorite empanadas for dinner, a gesture she hadn't made in months. Diego thanked her politely, ate, and left to meet Javier for a beer, leaving her alone at the table. Her attempt to reel him back felt hollow, a reaction to losing control rather than a genuine olive branch. The tension escalated when Sophia's credit card was declined at a Coral Gables boutique. She called Diego, her voice tight with irritation. "Why's my card not working?" He explained, matter-of-factly, "I lowered the limit. It's for essentials only now." The line went quiet. Then she snapped, "You're punishing me for having a life." Diego stayed composed. "No, Sophia. I'm just done bankrolling one that doesn't include me." She hung up, but the silence that followed was different, less dismissive, more uncertain. Sophia's next move was bolder. One evening, she suggested a date night at their old favorite spot in Little Havana. Diego agreed, curious but guarded. At dinner, she leaned in, laughing at his stories, touching his arm, a performance of the warmth they'd lost. "We should do this more," she said, her voice soft. Diego nodded, but his mind was elsewhere, replaying the months of her coldness, her "my rules" mantra. He paid for dinner, split evenly, a first, and drove home in silence, her attempts at closeness falling flat against his quiet resolve. The real test came a week later. Sophia approached him one night, suggesting a weekend getaway to the Keys. "Just us, to reconnect," she said, her voice almost pleading. Diego set down his camera, where he'd been editing photos from a recent shoot. "Why now?" he asked, his tone even but direct. She faltered, mumbling about missing how things were. He didn't argue, didn't accuse. "You set your boundaries, Sophia. I've set mine." Her eyes widened, as if realizing the man who'd once chased her affection was no longer waiting. She left the room, the air heavy with her unspoken regret. Diego's life outside their marriage grew fuller. He landed a freelance contract with a local startup, boosting his savings. He bought a used road bike, upgrading his rides, and started planning a solo hiking trip to Colorado, something he dreamed of but never pursued. Each choice cemented his independence, a shield against Sophia's attempts to pull him back into her orbit. Her frustration surfaced in small bursts, snarky comments about his new attitude, questions about where he'd been, but Diego responded with calm detachment, refusing to engage. He wasn't cold, just done begging for a partnership that only he seemed to want. By spring, the dynamic had shifted entirely. Sophia's confidence wavered as Diego's grew. He wasn't the provider she could take for granted anymore. He was a man rebuilding his life, one choice at a time. And as he stepped further into his own strength, Sophia began to see the cost of her distance. Not in words, but in the quiet absence of the man who'd once given her everything. Diego Alvarez stood in his new Wynwood apartment, unpacking a box of camera gear under the soft hum of a ceiling fan. It was mid-2023, and the small one-bedroom, with its exposed brick walls and view of Miami's mural-lined streets, felt like a fresh start. His marriage to Sofia had unraveled, not in a blaze of arguments, but through his quiet refusal to remain a bystander in his own life. He'd moved out a month ago, leaving their Coconut Grove condo with a single suitcase and a signed lease, choosing peace over a partnership that had long stopped serving him. Sofia's attempts to pull him back had intensified. She sent texts, long, emotional messages about missing him, about wanting to fix things. One evening, she showed up at his old office, waiting in the lobby with a thermos of Cuban coffee, a nod to their early days. Diego thanked her but kept the conversation short, citing a meeting. Her eyes searched his, looking for the man who'd once bent over backward for her approval. But he was gone, replaced by someone who valued his own worth. The turning point came on a humid Sunday afternoon. Diego was editing photos from a recent shoot at Vizcaya Gardens when Sofia called, asking to meet. He agreed, choosing a busy cafe in Brickell to keep things neutral. She arrived on time, her usual confidence dimmed, and launched into a speech. "I messed up, Diego," she said, her voice low. "I took you for granted, pushed you away. I want to work on us, maybe try counseling." She mentioned a couple's retreat in Key West, her eyes pleading for a second chance. Diego listened, stirring his espresso, letting her words settle. He leaned forward, his tone steady but firm. "Sofia, you made your choices, space over connection, your life over ours. I begged for closeness, and you called it pressure. I'm not angry, but I'm done waiting for you to show up." Her face crumpled, but he continued. "I've built something new, and it doesn't include chasing someone who only wants me when it's convenient." She tried to interrupt, citing stress in her yoga career, but Diego shook his head. "You set your rules. I found mine." He stood, leaving cash for his coffee, and walked out, the weight of her gaze heavy but no longer binding. Diego's life blossomed in the months that followed. His app project at work earned a promotion, boosting his confidence and income. He joined a local photography collective, exhibiting his work at a Wynwood gallery opening, where strangers praised his shots of Miami's vibrant corners. He hiked with his cycling group, their weekend trips to the Everglades filling him with a sense of adventure he'd forgotten. At a tech meetup, he met Elena, a graphic designer with a sharp mind and a warm laugh. Their first conversation, over craft beers at a Bayside bar, lasted hours, debating design trends, sharing stories of failed startups, and bonding over a love for old-school merengue. Elena listened when he spoke, asked questions, and matched his energy without games. When he mentioned his past, she nodded, saying, "I'm not here to fix anyone. I want a partner, not a project." Her words felt like a lifeline. Sofia's messages continued, a mix of apologies and accusations. One read, "I didn't see how much I hurt you until you walked away. I'm sorry." Diego read it, then archived it, unwilling to reopen a wound that was finally healing. He wasn't cruel. He wished her well, but he no longer owed her his energy. Her life, once funded by his sacrifices, now relied on her own resources. She scaled back her yoga gigs, taking a full-time HR job, her Instagram posts less frequent, less polished. Diego heard through a mutual friend that she'd stopped mentioning Mateo, her gym trainer, suggesting that connection had fizzled too. One evening, Diego sat on his balcony, editing a photo of a South Beach sunrise, the sky ablaze of pinks and golds. Elena texted, inviting him to a local art walk. He smiled, typing a quick "I'm in." As he grabbed his jacket, his phone buzzed again, another message from Sofia. "Can we talk? I miss us." He paused, then set the phone down without replying. The man who'd once poured everything into her had found something better, himself. Diego's journey wasn't about revenge, it was about reclaiming his dignity. He'd given Sofia everything, time, money, devotion, only to be met with indifference. By setting boundaries, redirecting his resources, and rebuilding his life, he'd discovered a truth. Love isn't about how much you give, but how much you're valued in return. As he stepped into the night, heading to meet Elena, Diego felt whole, not because someone else completed him, but because he'd learned to complete himself.